What happens when two music legends with decades of experience collide over artistic integrity and respect? You're about to find out. Because what went down between Morris Day and Jennifer Hudson on her talk show was absolutely explosive. The tension was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. And by the end, one of them was walking off set in pure frustration. The whole thing began innocently enough. Jennifer Hudson was interviewing Morris Day, the legendary frontman of the time, about his new music. Morris, dressed in his signature style, seemed relaxed and ready to chat about his 4-decade career. "Morris, it's such an honor to have you here," Jennifer began, her voice warm and welcoming. "I've been a fan since I was a little girl, listening to my parents play your music." Morris smiled. "Well, thank you, Jennifer. It's always a pleasure to be here with someone who appreciates real music. You know what I mean? The kind of music that actually means something." That last comment had a slight edge to it, but Jennifer didn't seem to catch it initially. She continued with her prepared questions, asking about his creative process and what inspired his latest work. Morris was animated, talking about how today's music lacks soul and authenticity. "You see, Jennifer, when we made music, we put our whole selves into it. We didn't have computers doing half the work for us. We had to actually sing, actually play instruments, actually connect with people on a real level." Jennifer nodded politely, but her expression shifted. "I think there's incredible talent in every generation, Maurice. Artists today are doing amazing things with the tools available to them." "Tools?" Morris repeated, scoffing. "That's exactly the problem. Music isn't about tools. It's about talent. Raw, unfiltered talent. Something you either have or you don't." The tension in the studio was building. Jennifer's smile became more forced as she tried to steer the conversation back to safer ground, suggesting they talk about his upcoming tour. But Maurice wasn't ready to move on. "You know what, Jennifer? Since we're talking about talent and authenticity, I have to ask you something," he said. "Do you really think some of these artists, today's reality show winners and contest participants, do you think they have what it takes to create lasting music?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jennifer's background, having won American Idol, made the implication crystal clear. Her face tightened slightly, though she maintained her professional composure. "I think talent comes in many forms. Morris, and success in the music industry requires hard work, dedication, and yes to loungery regardless of how someone gets their start." Morris leaned back in his chair with a knowing smile. "That's a diplomatic answer, but we both know the truth. There's a difference between manufactured success and organic artistry. Some people earn their place through years of grinding and perfecting their craft, while others get fast-tracked through television exposure." The audience was completely silent. Jennifer's jaw tightened. "Morris, are you suggesting that artists who get their start on competition shows aren't legitimate?" "I'm not suggesting anything, Jennifer. I'm stating a fact. Real artists don't need a platform to be handed to them. They create their own platforms through pure talent and determination." Jennifer set down her notes and looked directly at him. "So, you're saying that someone like me who won American Idol isn't a real artist?" "Your words, not mine." Morris shrugged. "But since you brought it up, let me ask you this. How many songs did you write before you got on that show? How many instruments could you play? How many years did you spend playing small clubs and fighting for every opportunity?" The tension was palpable. Jennifer's professional demeanor was starting to crack, and you could see the fire building in her eyes. "Maurice, I think you're confusing opportunity with talent. Yes, I got my start on a competition show, but everything I've accomplished since then has been through my own hard work and dedication." "Has it though?" Morris pressed on, clearly enjoying the discomfort. "Or has it been through the machine that was already built around you? Record deals lined up, promotional campaigns ready to go, industry connections handed to you on a silver platter." Jennifer's voice rose slightly. That's incredibly disrespectful, Maurice. I've worked my tail off for everything I've achieved. I've won an Oscar, multiple Grammys, and I've earned every single one of those accolades through my talent and effort. Morris waved his hand dismissively. Awards don't mean much when they're given out like participation trophies. Back in my day, you had to really prove yourself before anyone even considered giving you recognition. Hush. That comment struck a nerve. Jennifer's eyes flashed with anger. Participation trophies. Are you serious right now? You're sitting here questioning my legitimacy as an artist when I've proven myself time and time again in multiple fields? Multiple fields? Morris repeated mockingly. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Real artists focus on perfecting their craft, not spreading themselves thin across movies, television, and whatever else will keep them in the spotlight. Jennifer sat up in her chair. So now you're criticizing me for being versatile and taking on different lines. Challenges for growing as an artist and exploring different mediums. Morris remained seated, completely calm, which only seemed to infuriate Jennifer more. I'm not criticizing anything, Jennifer. I'm just pointing out the difference between someone who's dedicated their entire life to music and someone who treats it as one option among many. The studio was dead silent. Jennifer was fighting to maintain her composure. You know what, Maurice? I've been nothing but respectful to you this entire interview, and you've done nothing but insult me and my career. I haven't insulted anyone, Maurice countered. I've simply shared my perspective on what real artistry looks like versus what passes for artistry in today's manufactured entertainment industry. Jennifer's voice was shaking. Your perspective is outdated and, frankly, it's bitter. You're sitting here trying to diminish my accomplishments because what? You feel threatened by artists who found success differently than you did. Morris finally showed some emotion, his eyebrows raising slightly. Threatened by a reality show contestant. I don't think so, sweetheart. The condescending sweetheart was the final straw. Jennifer's professional mask completely dropped. Don't you dare call me sweetheart, she snapped, her voice cutting through the studio like a blade. I am a professional. I am your host, and I am not some little girl you can patronize. Morris looked genuinely surprised by the intensity of her reaction. But instead of backing down, he doubled down. Whoa, woke Tom down there. I was just being friendly. Friendly. Jennifer's laugh was sharp and humorless. You've spent the last 10 minutes questioning my legitimacy, dismissing my achievements, and now you want to call it friendly. That's not friendly, Maurice. That's disrespectful. Morris shifted in his seat. Look, I'm just being honest about the state of the music industry. If you can't handle an honest conversation about artistry, maybe you shouldn't be interviewing real musicians. Real musicians? Jennifer's voice went up an octave. Are you suggesting I'm not a real musician? I've sold millions of records. I've performed with some of the greatest artists of our time. And I've been recognized by every major music institution in this country. Morris waved his hand again, that same dismissive gesture that was getting under Jennifer's skin. Selling records doesn't make you a musician, Jennifer. Having a good marketing team and being on the right television show at the right time, that's not the same as being an artist. Jennifer was now fully standing, her hands planted on her desk. You know what, Maurice? I've had enough of this. You came on my show. You accepted my invitation. And you're sitting here insulting me and everything I've worked for? What gives you the right? The right? Morris laughed unpleasantly. 40 years in this business gives me the right. Being part of a group that actually changed music gives me the right. Creating something original instead of covering other people's songs on national television gives me the right. That last comment was a direct hit. Jennifer's face flushed with anger. You want to talk about originality, Morris? Let's talk about it. How many of your biggest hits were actually written by Prince? How much of your success came from riding on his creative genius? Now, it was Morris's turn to look stunned. The mention of Prince clearly hit a nerve. Excuse me. Prince and I were collaborators. We were partners in creating something revolutionary. Collaborators. Jennifer shot back. From what I remember, Prince wrote your songs, produced your albums, and basically created your entire image. So if we're talking about manufactured success and riding on someone else's talent, maybe you should look in the mirror. Morris stood up abruptly, his chair rolling backward. You don't know what you're talking about. Prince and I had a creative partnership that lasted decades. We built something together that influenced an entire generation of musicians. And I respect that, Jennifer said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. But don't you think it's a little hypocritical to sit here, questioning my authenticity when your biggest claim to fame is being associated with someone else's genius? Morris's face turned red. That's completely different, and you know it. Prince and I were a team from the beginning. We grew up together in Minneapolis. We developed our sound together. That's not the same as winning a singing contest and having a career handed to you. Jennifer laughed bitterly. Handed to me. Do you think winning American Idol was easy? Do you think the years of training, the performances, the competition against incredibly talented people were just handed to me compared to what real artists go through? Yeah, I do, Morris replied without hesitation. You sang songs that were already hits in front of judges who were looking for the next marketable personality. That's not artistry. That's auditioning. The insult was so direct and cutting that even the studio crew looked uncomfortable. You know what, Maurice? Jennifer said, her voice dangerously quiet. I invited you here to talk about your music, to give you a platform to promote your work and celebrate your contributions to music. Instead, you've spent this entire time trying to tear me down and diminish my accomplishments. Morris crossed his arms. I'm not tearing anyone down. I'm just speaking truth about the difference between earned success and manufactured success. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why. Jennifer's composure finally snapped. What makes me uncomfortable is having a guest come on my show and disrespect me in front of my audience. What makes me uncomfortable is someone who benefited from Prince's genius lecturing me about authenticity. Morris's face darkened. Don't you ever question my relationship with Prince. You have no idea what you're talking about, and you have no right to speak on something you weren't there for. And you have no right to question my journey or my talent, Jennifer fired back. The difference between us, Maurice, is that I've never needed to put other artists down to make myself feel better about my own success. Morris took a step closer to her desk. The difference between us is that I earned my place in music history through decades of innovation and creativity. While you got famous by singing other people's songs on television, the studio audience was completely silent. Jennifer looked at Maurice with a mixture of anger and disappointment. I cannot believe the level of disrespect you're showing me right now, she said slowly. I've accomplished things in my career that most artists can only dream of, and I've done it through hard work, dedication, and yes, talent. Real talent, Morris smirked. If you say so. Those 4 words were like a lit fuse. If I say so? Jennifer repeated, her voice rising. Let me tell you something about saying so, Maurice. I say so because I've proven it over and over again. I've proven it on Broadway. I've proven it in movies. I've proven it on records. And I've proven it every single day of my career. Morris rolled his eyes. Here we go with the resume again. Yes, here we go with the resume, Jennifer shot back. Because unlike some people, I don't have to live in the past or put other artists down to validate my worth. My resume speaks for itself. And if that bothers you, that's your problem, not mine. Maurice laughed a condescending, mean-spirited sound. Your resume was written by television producers and record executives who saw dollar signs. My resume was written by audiences who experienced something real. Something real. Jennifer was practically shouting now. You want to talk about something real? Real is standing on that American Idol stage week after week, singing my heart out while millions of people judged every note. Real is taking that opportunity and turning it into a career that spans multiple industries. Real is winning an Oscar for my first movie role because I brought something authentic to that character. Morris shook his head dismissively. Anyone can act emotional and win an Oscar these days. The standards aren't what they used to be. That comment about her Oscar was the final blow. Jennifer's face went from angry to absolutely livid. Get out, she said. Morris looked confused. What? I said, get out, Jennifer repeated, pointing toward the exit. This interview is over. I will not sit here and let you disrespect me, my career, and my achievements any longer. Morris looked around the studio as if he couldn't believe what was happening. You're kicking me off your show because I'm telling the truth about the music industry? I'm kicking you off my show because you're being deliberately insulting and disrespectful. Jennifer replied, her voice steady but filled with rage. This was supposed to be an interview about your music, not an opportunity for you to attack me personally. Morris started gathering his things, still talking. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Young artists today can't handle any criticism or real conversation about the industry. Everything has to be sugar-coated and fake positive. You think what you've been doing is criticism? Jennifer's voice cracked with disbelief. You've been personally attacking me from the moment you sat down. That's not criticism. That's just being cruel. Morris stood up, adjusting his jacket with an air of superiority. I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. And if you can't handle honesty about your career and how you got here, then maybe you shouldn't be in this business. Don't you dare tell me what business I should or shouldn't be in, Jennifer snapped. I've earned my place here through talent, hard work, and dedication's something you'd understand if you spent less time living in the past and more time recognizing the present.